Why time appears to speed up as we grow older. When you were 5 years old, 1 year felt enormous. A single summer could feel endless. Waiting for your birthday felt like it would never arrive. Even an ordinary afternoon could stretch so long it seemed permanent. But something changed. Now entire years seem to disappear before you even notice they started. Last winter feels recent. Last year feels unfinished. Sometimes even events from 5 years ago feel strangely close. And almost everyone notices this. People in their 30s say time started moving faster after school ended. People in their 40s say it accelerated once routines settled in. People in their 60s sometimes say the last 20 years passed faster than the first 20 combined. Most people assume this is just a feeling, something emotional, something psychological, something unavoidable. But neuroscience suggests something else, because the speed of time is not measured only by clocks. It is measured by your brain. When you are a child, almost everything happens for the first time. The first day of school, the first real friendship, the first time you got lost somewhere unfamiliar. Every one of these experiences forces your brain to pay attention, and attention changes time. Scientists have known for decades that the brain processes time differently depending on how much information it is recording. The more information it captures, the slower time feels. This is why accidents sometimes seem to happen in slow motion. Time itself does not change. Your brain simply records more detail than usual. Your perception stretches to keep up with reality. Childhood works the same way. Everything is unfamiliar. Everything is unpredictable. Everything requires attention, so everything gets recorded, and that makes time feel longer. But something else begins happening as you grow older. Your brain starts recognizing patterns. You stop noticing the street you walk down every day. You stop noticing the sounds around you. You stop noticing details your brain has already classified as predictable, not because those details disappeared, but because your brain decided they were no longer important. This process is called predictive processing. Your brain is constantly trying to guess what will happen next. The more accurate its predictions become, the less attention it needs to spend understanding the present moment, which sounds efficient, but efficiency has a hidden cost, because when your brain stops paying attention to something, it also stops remembering it clearly. And when fewer memories are stored, time begins to shrink. Psychologists sometimes describe memory as the structure that gives time its shape. Without memory, time has no length. This explains something researchers repeatedly observe. Periods filled with new experiences almost always feel longer in memory than routine ones. 2 weeks in a new country can feel longer than 3 months spent following the same daily schedule. The difference is not the calendar. The difference is how much your brain recorded. Your brain is not measuring how long something lasted. It is measuring how much happened. And when less happens, time feels shorter. There is another reason this effect becomes stronger with age, and this one begins deep inside your brain. There is a network sometimes described as your internal timing system. Part of this system depends on dopamine. Dopamine is often called the brain's reward chemical, but that description is incomplete. Dopamine does not just create pleasure, it signals importance. It tells your brain what to remember. When dopamine activity is high, experiences feel richer and more detailed. Children naturally experience stronger dopamine responses to ordinary events because everything feels new. As dopamine activity gradually changes with age, novelty becomes harder to trigger. Experiences feel more familiar, not because life becomes smaller, but because your brain becomes more efficient at predicting it. Researchers studying Parkinson's disease noticed something unusual many years ago. Patients with reduced dopamine activity often reported changes in how fast time seemed to move. Some described minutes feeling shorter than expected. Others described entire days slipping past them without clear boundaries. Their internal clocks had changed, which suggested something important. Your experience of time is biological. It can stretch, and it will stretch. But dopamine is only part of the story, because scientists discovered something else while studying attention and time perception. When people are placed in completely unfamiliar environments, their sense of time begins to change almost immediately. In one experiment, volunteers spent several days living outdoors without artificial light, digital schedules, or modern routines. Within just a few days, their sleep cycles shifted, their attention increased, and their memories of each day became more detailed. Another group of researchers observed similar effects in people who moved to new cities. The first months felt unusually long, but after routines stabilized, time began compressing again. Nothing about the clock changed, only attention changed. And this may explain something anthropologists have been suggesting for years. For most of human history, life did not repeat itself the way it does now. Humans moved constantly. They explored unfamiliar environments, adapted to changing seasons, encountered new dangers, learned new landscapes again and again throughout their lives. Attention was necessary for survival. Routine existed, but it rarely lasted long. Then something changed. Agriculture created stability. Cities created repetition. And modern life created something the human brain had almost never experienced before. You wake up in the same room, walk the same streets, open the same applications, day after day after day. From your brain's perspective, this environment requires less processing than almost any environment your ancestors experienced. And when the brain processes less information, it stores fewer memories, which makes time feel shorter. This helps explain something many people notice after traveling. Week in a new place feels so long. But once you return home, weeks begin to disappear again. Nothing about the clock changed, only your attention changed. And studies of older adults revealed something unexpected. People who continue learning new skills often report slower subjective time across decades. Traveling, meeting unfamiliar people, changing routines, learning languages, starting creative projects, all of these increase memory density, which quietly stretches our life. These small disruptions force the brain to pay attention again, and attention stretches time. This suggests something important. Time may not automatically speed up as you age. Instead, your brain becomes better at predicting what comes next. And once your brain can predict your life, it stops paying attention to it as closely as before, which creates the feeling that time is accelerating. Maybe childhood did not feel longer because time moved differently back then. Maybe it felt longer because everything was happening for the first time, because nothing was predictable. And if attention is what stretches time, then the length of your life may depend less on how many years pass and more on how many of them your brain decides are worth remembering. Which raises one final question. If your brain compresses familiar experiences, how much of your life is passing right now without you even noticing it?